everybody, and welcome to Lacrosse Now. That is Travis Eldridge. I am Tom Eschen. Of course, the Women's World Championships continuing in Towson, Maryland. The pool play is through. We're in the midst of the brackets. We're in the midst of the championship and the platinum rounds, and it's been a lot of fun, a lot of good lacrosse so far, and we're going to break it all down for you here today.
So we're taping this on Tuesday ahead of Team USA's game of the round of 16, which we assume by the time you're listening to this, they will have won. But we're going to talk as of the results we know now and things that have happened in pool play.
Yeah, more of the bigger overarching things that we've seen in the tournament that can help, set the stage for the future and see where a lot of these athletes and countries are going here in the next steps.
And to help us break down what we've seen so far, we have former Team USA member, current head coach at Army, Michelle Tumolo, joins us. We had a great discussion with her, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Also talking some PLL pretender-contender at the end of the show. They've hit the All-Star break in the PLL, so plenty to talk about here in the kind of unofficial first half of the season.
Yeah, it should be a good stuff so far as the PLL. It's hard to believe that they're already halfway through, so it's a few weeks in. So, our answers for that will be great. But let's begin with Team USA.
Yep.
And, of course, we've seen a lot so far from Team USA. We've seen a few battles. Against England, of course, on July 4th. That was a game for a while. It was close. It was Canada, the same thing. So they have been competing with teams, obviously blown some out along the way as well. We got a couple categories for you to start. The Team USA player that surprised you the most so far, Travis.
This is interesting. First off, one of the biggest surprises, I think, for me is that not only has Canada closed this gap against Team USA, but England has. Those scores are very different from what we saw 5 years ago in pool play in these matchups. And it's not because the U.S. got worse. It's because Canada and England are catching up with those rosters. So that's the first thing as I throw my head. I'm so excited.
Wow.
That's the first thing that I think to be surprised about as a whole. But in terms of a player, how about Sam Apuzzo? She led Team USA in pool play in points with 16 points, 6 goals, 10 assists. You look at, obviously, Charlotte North has gotten so much attention throughout her final year, or final couple of years at Boston College, and now here in the international stage, and deservedly so. But it's Apuzzo, who's almost like the forgotten about former BC star. She won a Tewaaraton Award.
She did, yeah.
She was the best player on a team that went to the championship game when she was in college. Obviously, even at BC, she was part of the Big Three. So it wasn't just her. Well, she's showing that she is a really important part of this offense and has shined really brightly. Her ability to do both, whether it's score or distribute, I think has been really well displayed throughout this tournament so far, with Team USA being 4-0.
I just wish you listened to me in our show that previewed the whole tournament. I said,
listen,
keep an eye out for Sam Apuzzo because she's a perfect piece to this offense.
And she leads she's the only player on this team with double-digit assists. She's got 10 of them so far to go along with the 6 goals. You're right. You were right at the very beginning because. But did you really see her leading the team in points?
I thought that she had. I really thought she had the capability to do that. She's played well professionally, post-collegiate career. Right. She's been coaching as well, which I think also lends itself to seeing the field even better than she has ever in her entire career as well. So I think that all of that has combined to help her really know what her role is here. And the more you're able to really recognize that role and flourish in it, she's been able to do just that. And on a team where it's not exactly easy to exactly know what your role is with so much talent.
Well, and you know what? I think her playing on a team at BC with Kayla Trainer as an assistant coach, I think you can see a lot of what Kayla Trainer did in 2017 has become Sam Apuzzo. I'm going to talk about Kayla Trainer here in a second, but very similar characteristics, and they've kind of worked really well together, working kind of behind the cage, goal line extended, and that's been a really big key for the U.S. offense.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I will go with Charlotte North as the player that surprised me the most. I think we're both on the same page with this because we talked about it leading into the tournament. Would we have more of a splash play here and there from Charlotte North? Still end up putting some points on the board, but it's been more the consistency and the way that she has just grabbed the bull by the horns here. And she's surrounded by talent at BC. I don't want you to get me wrong there. There's plenty, but she is top dog. I think there's no doubt about that, far and away. In lacrosse, she's won 2 Tewaaraton Awards in a row. Whether you agree with the second one or not, she still has been one of the defining players of this generation of lacrosse. But she is inserted into a lot of defining players of this generation of lacrosse. and it's like she hasn't missed a beat from college. And to me, the way that she's been able to stick out amongst this amount of talent shows a lot about her mentality, her attitude, and the fact that she's had the attitude in which she has ingratiated herself to these other stars because they're accepting of it, they realize it and recognize it. So I'm not surprised by her personality. We've gotten to know her the last few years and all of that, but it does, I mean, it's a little bit taking you aback. You're like, Charlotte North is still one of the most incredible players you've ever seen, and a whole completely different team and a completely different rule, like all this other things. She's still that amazing that she can stick out amongst this group.
I think the surprising thing to me is we saw her do things in college that you went, wow, like that looks different amongst everybody else in the field. But you're right. Like, you play in a college game, you're playing, even in the ACC, you're playing with the best players of this given year when you're playing in those games. She's playing with the best players in the world. And she's doing things that it doesn't seem like anybody else on the field can do. Like, you compare her shot to what you see from even the other best players in the world, it just looks different. And so to do that and stand out the way she has, I think it's eye-opening because of, like, she's just out of college. And to see her do this on this stage, it's one thing to do it in college and be the best player in the country in any given year or throughout a couple of years. But to do this on this stage against alongside a player in Taylor Cummings that was a player of generation, and Kayla Trainer, who's been a player of this generation, and Kylie O'Miller, and to stand out amongst all of them, I mean, that's a high order, and she's thriving in this environment.
You know, and I think it's also, I don't know if this is a surprise or not, this is our first glimpse at who that star could be. And we've talked about this before. Like, I've said her ceiling to me is being up in the upper echelon of Olympic athletes, of names that you know from some of these sports that aren't mainstream, but you get to know, like the Katie Ledeckis of the world, the Abby Wambachs of the world, some of those athletes that you hear in the Olympic cycles every 4 years. And you look at LA in 2028 here, in 6 years' time, Charlotte North certainly going to be a part of that, I think, I'd imagine. I don't know that's a guess. And I don't know, there will be some from this team currently, but she has, I think, begun that trek here and now, right? This is the moment where I don't know who else will be a part of that mix at that point, 6 years down the road.
Right.
There will still be some. I don't know who will still be there, but she has firmly supplanted herself as a part of, like, this is the beginning for that.
Well, I think you talk about players, you think, when you watch them, you think, like, wow, there's nobody else that can play like that. And you kind of can count them on one hand. It's like Gary Gait. We've seen John Grant Jr. do things like with lacrosse stick that you just don't see. We've seen Dana Dobie in this tournament still doing it for Canada, things that, like, you go, how? Nobody else can do that. Well, Charlotte North is putting herself in that category of people that do things that you go, yeah, people are going to try that, but they can't do it like her.
Yeah.
And that's really impressive.
You'd always say that nothing should surprise you about her, but this, just to see the way she's sort of taken a hold of this has been a bit eye-opening.
For sure.
Even bigger than you might have ever even imagined. All right, the most important Team USA player, Travis.
I'm going to go for another one of those players of generation, and I think it's Kayla Trainer. And I was rewatching that U.S. and England game earlier this morning from July 4th. And when England kept counterpunching, because Team USA got out the early lead and England said, we're not going anywhere, and came back and they kept that. It was like a 1-2 goal game for a while there toward the end of the first half and early in the second. And it just felt like Kayla Trainer was part of all the plays for Team USA that kept them in the lead and kept them building that cushion and kept them responding to every one of England's goals, because that's what it was for the U.S. England was finding ways to score, but the U.S. kept going back down. They'd win a draw control, and they kept responding. And so her stat line is just so even keel across. 7 goals, 8 assists, 7 draw controls in pool play. She can do a little bit of everything, despite the fact she's an attacker. Like, she can sometimes play like a midfielder if need be. She can do a little bit of everything. We saw her do it at Syracuse, and I think her veteran presence on that offense amongst a bunch of players other than like other than some of the midfielders, but amongst those attackers, her veteran presence of having been here in 2017, I think is a real cool, calm collectiveness to allow the other stars, whether it's Charlotte North or Sam Apuzzo, to feel comfortable and just settle in and do what they do.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's almost like there's been so much around her becoming the coach at Syracuse, you forget how great of a player she is, right? I don't want to say that we did, but it is. You go back and see her play, like, oh yeah, that's right. She's Kayla Trainer still on the field, you know. And she did obviously such a great job at the sidelines at Syracuse this year, but a lot of attention was on the Kayla Trainer, the coach, not necessarily the player. Now you get to see her as the player again and say, oh, this is why, you know, she was so great at Syracuse and has been in her pro career as well, and has been for Team USA over the course of her life. So you're right. I think she's been really important, and she's been a very calming influence, I think, for the rest of the team.
I mean, you look at her, she's second in the team in assists, and so she set up a lot. She set up a lot of the highlight reel plays that Team USA has put out. I think she's got to have at least 2 or 3 assists on BTB goals.
Yeah.
I just do think, like, having that player for Team USA with all the players that at that attack spot that are first-time World Championship performers, I think just allows everybody else to not have to worry about it.
Yeah.
You know?
And I mean, Jenny Levy's the coach, but think of the players that she's coached on this team.
Right.
Charlotte North,
Sam Puzzo, Dempsey Arsenal.
Charlotte North gives Kayla Trainer a lot of credit for the taking that next step in her career. So there's certain like Kayla Trainer-isms in everybody. You mentioned that with Sam Puzzo and the way she's been able to help dictate things as well. So it goes beyond just her playing on the field. It's what she's taught these players as they've gone on in their career.
And if the games get close against England or Canada here toward the end of this run, look for Kayla Trainer to be the person with the ball on her stick to make the decisions on, all right, who's going to make the play. Even if she's not scoring, I just feel like if it comes down to crunch time, there's a second half where it's a 1-goal game, I'd expect Kayla Trainer to have the ball on her stick making the decisions for Team USA.
That's why my most important player is the person that's going to be finishing that.
Oh,
and that's Marie McCool. Because Marie McCool, like you said, maybe a little under the radar coming in, I think, with all these other stars. And she has been incredibly good and such a spark, you know. And I think the team, like you said, Kayla Trainer's done that in her presence. But I think also McCool has given the team more of a spark than anything else. And I think maybe than any, Charlotte North has done what she's done, but I think Marie's been really important in that, and the way she's been able to finish. In the pool play, 12 goals on 16 shots. 75% of the time she's making the goal and she's finishing these plays, which sometimes there's so much going on, it feels like, and there's so many moving parts, and there's players like Kayla Trainer, and there's fakes from Charlotte North. You need someone just to go in there and make the play happen and finish it all and figure themselves out of the chaos. And Marie, like, her athleticism and her speed, I think, gives the U.S. a little bit different of dynamic. They're all great athletes. And, you know, Charlotte North, you look at her strength and her shot, and Kylie is so shifty around the cage, and you go on and so forth. Sam Puzzo and like some of they're more deferential and more cerebral players.
Yeah.
But Marie, her speed to me and her athleticism has really stuck out, and the way she's been able to finish and just beat defenders. I think if you want someone that can just come on, run out of the midfield, you pass them the ball and she's shooting out like a cannon. Like, she's so dependable. I think that's made her really important, and she's given the team exactly what they need. Like, it feels like she hasn't really tried to do too much at any time, but she's like, okay, we need to go right now. I'm going to go score. I feel like she can do that anytime she wants in this tournament.
And that speed's important on the defensive end, too.
Yeah.
She's been important on that end of the field as well.
Absolutely. That's a good point.
One more thing that you speak of midfielders from Team USA. One more thing that's a surprise. Taylor Cummings with the highlight reel goal.
Yeah.
I think she surprised herself. You could see her smile, and she sees everybody else getting all these BTBs, and that's not her game.
No.
Because, I mean, she has always been fundamentally sound. She's not going to give you anything crazy, outrageous for the highlight reel, but she's going to get the job done. That is what won her 3 straight Tewaaraton awards on both ends of the field, draw control, whatever. The backhand shot she scored against England, I think she was like, all right, let's get myself a highlight.
It shows you that the great ones will find a way, no matter what. And, you know, she's done it so fundamentally sound her whole career, but if she has to get one in, any way she can figure it out. Like, she might not have practiced that shot, but she knows how to make it.
Yeah, she's got the talent.
Yeah.
It's there. And she's watched everybody else score a backhand goal or a BTB. She's like, why not me?
Yeah,
anyway,
very true.
So just wanted to get that one more surprise in there. Speaking of other surprises, this tournament has been outside of Pool A from what we've seen, and we've gotten some great games between the United States and England and the U.S. and Canada. But the rest of the tournament has given us some things to talk about. We got some tournament talkers to hit on. Why don't you go first? What do you got?
How about Israel and 16-year-old Zoe Martin, who has been unbelievable? The minimum age for the tournament, by the way, is 15. There's a couple of youngsters out there, but Zoe Martin with Team Israel went 4-0 in pool play, looking dominant from Denver, Colorado, just 16 years old. She had 5 goals and 6 draw controls against Norway. And she has looked, if you've watched Israel play, she hasn't, I mean, you can say, yeah, she's 16 years old, but she's looked like she's 26 at times. She is so calm out there. And you'd imagine a young player, that hasn't really experienced something like this in their life. You'd be a little jittery, trying to move too fast. And sometimes the athleticism takes over and you're able to really contribute. But she has been very calm and in her own right, cerebral out there. It's just the word of the day. But it's been really impressive to see what she's done and what a future for Israel. They've got a couple of really talented young players. Taylor Schnitt is another 16-year-old on this team. And you look at what Zoe Martin has done, not only to make the team, but be a contributor on the team and be a part of their offense and really help take Israel to the next level, which I think is what she's done.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen some really young players play for Canada here over the last World Championships, and the cool thing is now you look 4 years down the road and now she's 20 and she already has that experience, and now she's maybe playing at an even higher level depending on where she decides she wants to play.
Yeah,
I mean, like that, it becomes really interesting. And you see, like, Canada gave those chances to a lot of younger players. You saw them then win the 2015 U19 Women's World Championship.
Yeah.
And now look at what they're doing on the senior stage. So it really, a lot of ways, can really help build a program as well.
Yes, and you develop, and that's, like you said, we talked about at the beginning of the broadcast, talk about closing that gap.
Yeah.
You start to get depth because of that, right? Because
Exactly.
you have the people that have been there for a few cycles, and you have these youngsters who have the experience already and contributing already. That to me is what blows my mind. I mean, and Israel's been really good too.
Yes. Speaking of depth of talent, it's not a player from Team USA or Canada or Australia or even Scotland who's leading the tournament in goals so far. It's Belle Martiri, the former William & Mary star, who will go to Clemson next year to play her final year of collegiate eligibility. And she has been just fantastic to watch. 22 goals so far in this tournament. She grew up in Baltimore, but her great-grandparents actually fled Czechoslovakia during World War II. And so she has these roots, and she's had her grandmother in the stands in Baltimore throughout this entire tournament, waving the Czech Republic flag. And I think it's so cool to see her, A, in her hometown performing like this, but B, doing it for people in her family who obviously have such strong ties to the country. And this has to be the ultimate. I mean, she had a terrific career at William & Mary, one of the best goal scorers they've had in program history. But the confidence of performing on this stage now, as you go to Clemson to play in the ACC in the first year in Tigers program history, like, this is going to be, it's going to be really fun to watch her now next year, building off what she's doing this summer.
I'm just really glad that she's getting some recognition here on a bigger scale, because we've been able to see her in the CAA over the course of her career at William & Mary just put up points and score and be the main option on an offense that, yes, they had some other options, but everybody knew that she was the one they had to stop. So, and a lot of times didn't really stop her all that well. So at the end of the day, to see her flourish in this isn't surprising, but it's really nice and gratifying from someone that we've seen her play and, like, yeah, this is what she deserved the whole time.
Yeah, and she did it since her freshman year on campus. Like, she stepped on, was an immediate contributor offensively for that tribe program.
Absolutely. All right, I'm going to move on here. Puerto Rico, their first Women's World Championships, and man, have they been good. They only lost to Israel in group play, so they went 3-1 over the course of the pool play. That was a close game, 14-11. You talked about her at the beginning of the tournament, Delaney Rodriguez-Shaw from Robert Morris, the sophomore there now. Duquesne, excuse me. 12 goals, 4 assists in pool play, and she's led this team. No one else is in double digits for points over the course of pool play for them. And then Yale's Sky Carrasquillo, 23 draw controls in pool play. She had 7 goals. 23 draws is a lot over the course of pool play. She had 95 for Yale in her freshman year. Her sister's on the team as well, Brianna, so she plays as well. She also plays with her at Yale. There's another group of sisters, Isabella Antonella and Gabriella Henson Vendrell, that also play. So it's all in the family on this Puerto Rico team. They play well together. They're a lot of fun, and I've really enjoyed watching them because they've been good, and also they have all this camaraderie and good stuff, and it's their first time competing here too, which is cool.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Delaney Rodriguez-Shaw play in the Atlantic 10 tournament for Duquesne, and she just did so much for that program. And now to watch her do it for Puerto Rico is really, really impressive.
Yeah.
Terrific athlete.
They've been fun. I like them. Yeah.
My team that I've been really pumped for, and we just saw it here earlier today, the Haudenosaunee women pulling off a big upset. They were the 12 seed entering the round of 16, taking on the 5 seed Scotland. So you're playing the bottom of Pool A. Huge game for them, and they win. They come out with a couple of goal victory here earlier today, an upset in the round of the 16. So now they move on to play Australia in the quarterfinals. First ever time the Haudenosaunee women have played in the quarterfinals. And now you're looking at this tournament as we have a realistic chance to finish in the top 5 in the world and put yourself into that Pool A conversation looking ahead to 4 years from now in the World Championships. So this is a massive victory for the Haudenosaunee women. They're obviously going to be competing in the World Games as well, in sixes coming up in about a week. And so this is a very, very big step forward. We've seen them. I mean, obviously the Iroquois Nationals men's program has gotten a lot of attention, but sometimes the women's program not given that kind of attention. Now they're showing it on the field that they deserve it.
We talked about this. I talked about the pressure that probably a lot of these athletes face, knowing, that the Olympic movement and what that means and getting. And I think there's obviously so many, especially in the lacrosse world, that want the Haudenosaunee to be included, and they should be, of course, included. I don't think anybody doubts that or disputes that. Should be included as a part of the Olympics, especially in Los Angeles in 2028. So this for them, I don't think it should matter, but it does at the end of the day. To play well, especially on the women's side of things, where if the lacrosse is going to get in at the bare minimum, probably the women's game would be the way it would go. So you have this Haudenosaunee women's team. They get into that top pool tier. That definitely gets the eyeballs, the attention of a lot of people.
Yeah, so even if they lose to Australia in the quarterfinal round, the tournament continues in the championship round. Like, you play it out to try to figure it out on who is 5th through 8th then. But they're in the mix. They're in the top 8. Now you got to find a way to win one more game to get yourself into that 5 spot.
In that mix, of course, some of this is going to be decided over the next couple of days, but in that mix, teams like Israel, teams like Puerto Rico, Germany is also around there. Yeah. So those are the kind of teams and countries they're going to be competing with.
Yeah, so going to be a lot of fun to see.
And Japan. I have one more, a special one. Japan. Kokoro Nakazawa from Louisville. She is filling it up. 19 points in pool play for Japan, winning as a 9 seed to the championship round. They beat Haudenosaunee over the course of pool play, 13-8. She's been great. She got 12 goals, 10 assists as a sophomore at Louisville, returning for her junior year next year. I had to give her a shout out too.
And if you haven't seen Japan play, I watched the men's program play when they played Team USA. I actually gave them a really good run back in January of 2020 down in San Antonio as part of the USA Lacrosse Spring Premiere. They fly around.
Yeah.
Man. They are
fun.
They play an exciting brand.
They stick it up and down. Yeah, they score.
Yeah, I talked to Sammy Jo Tracy about playing sixes in Japan when she went over prior to the pandemic to play with the PLL All-Stars and the Women's Pro All-Stars. And she was saying, like, they move.
Yeah.
So if you were looking for maybe a team that off the radar to make sure you catch some of here before the tournament's over, check out Japan.
Do it, yeah, whenever you get a chance. This is on all day pretty much for the most part. So
yeah, started early. It'll continue later on to this evening where we'll figure out who all will be in the quarterfinal round that'll start play on Wednesday. It's busy. You got Wednesday quarterfinals, Thursday semifinals, and the championship coming your way on Saturday.
And obviously we'll be watching Team USA all the way on through as we've covered them throughout the tournament. Travis caught up with Michelle Tumolo to break down how Team USA has done so far.
So we're now joined by Michelle Tumolo, head coach at Army and also a former member of Team USA. Michelle, just first off, overall impressions from what we've seen from Team USA here at the World Championship so far.
It's so exciting. Being on the national stage and getting the coverage that they're getting, it's so, deserving, but it's just so fun to watch. I mean, player by player, can go through the whole roster. But obviously these are my former teammates and some of my best friends. So I'm just over the moon for them. Really excited and I can't say I'm surprised because they're the best in the world, but each day I'm just more proud to know them and watch them play to the best of their potential.
We just saw them get tested against England, and I think everybody walked into this tournament. You looked up and down some of the rosters, whether it's Canada and England. You go, All right. There's some names here and some players that can compete with the best in the world. What was your impression off of how England gave U.S. kind of all they could handle in the final game of group play?
Yeah, that was the one game I actually was able to go see in person. And, the U.S. are going to get everyone's best game. They're going to give their every single thing they got because they know the history of what the U.S. has done. But England's gotten better each year. They're doing what it takes to get to that level and to try to be a Canada or a U.S. And they have great players on the roster. And as you see, Britt Reid in goal, who I know very well, doing a great job. Emily Knowles, who just won a national championship at UNC. So, and then obviously players like Megan Whittle and, the rest of the roster, they're just getting better and better, and they train really hard. So it doesn't surprise me that they gave the U.S. a great game. And it's great for the U.S. to play close games. It's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, from the U.S. perspective, obviously you want to go out and blow everybody out. But in terms of the world stage and just entertainment value, it's fun to see these games close because I think sometimes it brings out the best in the best players in the world that we see with Team USA.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of like it ignites a fire, like Taylor Cummings, that backhanded goal. She's dominating the draw. It's like you're poking a bear when you're playing, Team USA tight. And it's exciting for sure. I mean, you see Kayla Trainer doing Kayla Trainer things, Charlotte North with the faked out the camera person. And I mean, that's just elite players being elite. So it was really fun to watch. And honestly, it's fun to see countries getting better and better. It's exciting for the sport.
Look, Team USA's won all the games that they were supposed to win here in pool play, and they've put on a show while doing it. What has impressed you the most about whether it's an individual player on this stage, a collective group? What's impressed you the most about what we've seen?
Yeah, playing at the highest level and with the best of the best, it is such an honor. And I know that that's how I felt when I was playing on the pitch with them. But just seeing players be elite. I mean, I can obviously talk so highly of the U.S. team because I know them so well. Kayla Trainer, Charlotte North, Sam Puzo, Taylor Cummings, Becca Block. I can go on, right? But to see them just being able to play on this stage in front of our home crowd is just it's so fun, and it makes me so happy. But also players like Dana Dobie, who is probably one of the oldest players out there and completely crushing it. I mean, I'm still idolizing her, even though, again, she's one of my good friends. It's just so fun. And even to go along with my assistant coach, Katrina Dow, she's playing for Team Ireland. I'm just over the moon for all these players to be able to play in the World Cup and, on American soil. And it's just really exciting.
The Dana Dobie goal that she scored against Team USA, what would you call that?
Fire flames. Fire flames. I had 2 words, fire flames right there. But that is vintage Dana Dobie. I mean, we can't say that she hasn't done that. She does it almost every single time she touches the ball. So she's incredible. She's also incredible for the sport. I know she's on the lacrosse committee, and we're lucky to be able to see her out there playing and just doing what she does best and supporting the sport and playing it to the best of her ability. It's amazing.
Yeah, I'm in my 30s now, and so watching her do this, it just makes me feel good. I feel like I still got some game left in my own thing. So, watching her do it is great. On the other end of things, though, I don't think anybody should be surprised, and I don't think anybody is with what Charlotte North is doing because of what we saw her do in her college career. But to step just off of a college campus and now do it on this stage against the best in the world, it's surrounded by the best players in the country, to me is really impressive. How have you thought of what Charlotte North has done in this tournament?
I love Charlotte. And people don't know this, but I've known her for a while. Coached her at a camp when she was yay big. And I knew there was something great about her. But it just goes to show that she has great coaches at BC, and she learned from Kayla, and she had great players around her. She's played on the biggest stage. She's the kind of person that thrives in that, and she's only better from the best people around her. She's just a sensation to watch, and it's so fun seeing the little kids run up to her after the game as well. And she's making this sport. I mean, look at the highlights that are constantly going up on Instagram and Sports Top Center, ESPN, all that stuff. So it doesn't surprise me. She's like made for this, and it's just only making the team better. Her talent and the people around her, it's sensational, truly.
Yeah, it really is. And the confidence to do it when you're surrounded by players and probably that she idolized coming up, and now she's stepping into that role, I think is so cool to watch. So let's put your predictor hat on here as you look ahead toward the end of the tournament. Team USA, I think we assume is going to find a way back to that gold medal game. And I think it's probably going to be either England or Canada. If England and Canada match up in that semifinal, who's playing Team USA for the gold?
Yeah, so I was really excited to see the Canada-England game because I was interested in how that would shake out. And obviously we saw that Canada beat England. But again, anything can happen. And obviously I'm rooting for my USA girls all the way. It's never been done on home soil, which is a crazy thing. So the U.S. obviously know that they want to do it on the U.S. soil, but also it's just like a standard for us now to win gold. That is something that you look forward to your whole career. But we know that whoever wins, Canada or England, is going to give their best shot. In my opinion, I think it's going to be Canada. Again, Scott Teeter and Coach Gate and, their whole staff knows how to prepare them. And I'm excited. I can't wait. It's weird to be able to be on the other side of things, watching from either the bench or my TV, but I'm honored that I was a part of this whole situation. But also just really proud of my teammates and my best friends, just to be able to go out there and play the sport they love on the high stage. So if I had to say, it's going to be US, Canada in the final.
And sign me up for that. That first game of the tournament was a lot of fun.
I agree.
Take me inside the locker room before a gold medal game, because, in 2017, you guys really took care of business on your way to playing for gold. But there's still that pressure. You still know there's a medal on the line, and you're trying to do what you're expected to do at the end. What's that pressure or the feeling in the locker room like before when you put on that red, white, and blue?
Well, I could say that we were playing a lot of Christina Aguilera in the locker room, singing, dancing. It's, you want to make it fun, loose, but you also know this is the biggest part of your life, and this is the biggest moment. And you want to win it for not only yourself and the people in the locker room, but for your country and the people that support you and maybe came over to watch you play, and all your coaches and teammates that have gotten you there. That's how I felt. So I know I sat there and sat in silence for a little bit, just being grateful for the opportunity and 2 feet on the ground and being like, wow, I'm in this moment. How lucky am I? Now I'm going to go out there and do my best to be the best teammate and best player in the field. So I know that that's going to be happening in the US locker room. I know there's going to be a confidence, but also a type of pressure, but that's Team USA's bread and butter, thriving under pressure. Everyone's always trying to beat them. So I just know that it's going to be loose, fun. You see the videos of them singing, dancing. It's a great personality team. They're all amazing. It's going to be fun. And I think the same for Team Canada. If that is the final, if those are the two locker rooms, they're going to be, chomping at the bit. And they gave us a great game in 2017, great plan. It was close. It was only, 10-5 at the final. So I'm just so excited. Get your popcorn ready. It's going to be great no matter what happens. Just great lacrosse for the next week.
I don't think Canada has to worry about getting too stressed out in the locker room. They got Gary Gate in there, and he's the most laid back person of all time.
He's he's cool as a cucumber, but has the most passion and love for the game. He's amazing. That's why I felt like I did so well at Syracuse, because he was just so calm, cool, collected.
Compare what it's like to get up for a big game when you're playing to what it's like to get up for a big game now when you're coaching. What are the emotions like, and how are they different?
Yeah, I'm the type of player or coach that gets nervous for everything, just because I want my team to strive and do well and feel confident. And so for me as a coach, I actually sit and plan my speech. I write it out on the same piece of paper. It has to have the Army letterhead at the top. I plan it out the same way. And I put my points, my keys of emphasis. And sometimes I don't get to every key because I just go in one thought and I just go and get really excited about it. And my players will probably think I'm hilarious or crazy some days. I'm just like, I give my full emotion in the locker room. So it's, the game prep has been done. So the game day, it's all about the speech and getting my players ready and hype. So I bring all the electricity to the locker room.
That's how we like to see it. Before we let you go, let's talk Army real quick.
Of course.
What's it like now that you've got like a full off season and it feels like things are kind of normal and now you can feel like you're really in an off season groove? What's this like compared to the chaos probably last summer?
Yeah, I know it's coming up on like 1 year from like being here. It's incredible. This is where it's different, where I watched one of my players rappel from a helicopter the other day to pass air assault school. So that's something I did the other day. Jolie Rydell, one of our captains, incredible person, human, got her wings, passed air assault. I live right on post. So my house is here. And then Camp Buckner is about 10 miles, not even, away from here. So I can hear booms in the background. It means that they're training and doing certain things. And so some of my players are out there doing training. Some of them are home. Some of them are here. They all have special details. So my job is, one, to recruit the next generation of Army lacrosse players, but also to support them here and what they're doing in their summer details. And to say I'm honored is to say that, like, I can't get over my job. It's incredible. And to see them doing things in the summer is actually the best part of my job, to see them really doing the military stuff, because they're preparing what they're going to be doing after graduation.
Yeah, that's something that most coaches don't watch their players do, rappel out of a helicopter. That's a new one.
Exactly. Same. I'm just like, I'm always like jaw on the floor, just because they're so incredible and they're just such incredible women too. And so, sorry to say this, but badass. If you need to bleep that out, they are right. Badass. So yeah.
It's awesome to see the success you guys had, especially toward the tail end of year one there for Army. Can't wait to see you guys back in the field coming up this spring, and enjoy the World Championships from this side now.
I know. Retired, feeling good. Yeah, I'm just proud of my teammates and my friends. So good luck to everyone. But go Team USA.
Awesome. Michelle, thank you so much for the time. Good luck with everything.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Travis.
Always good hearing from Michelle Tumolo. What a year she had with Army this past season, by the way, as a coach, too.
Yeah, got that first win over Navy.
Yeah.
Obviously, one of the great moments of her first year. You just heard her talking about watching her players jump out of helicopters, and a little different than most head coaches around the country.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite the job, and obviously those are some talented young people that she's getting to work with, and important young people for all of us as well.
Very special people signing up to play lacrosse there at Army. So thanks to Michelle for taking some time. Let's move on to the PLL now. Finishing up the weekend in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And we've got a week off before the All-Star game in a couple of weeks. So we're going to do some pretender and contender discussion. Who's a pretender? Who's a contender here about halfway through the year? Who's got a legit shot to win a championship? So you want to do contenders first or pretenders?
I think let's start with pretenders first.
Okay,
contenders
who do you got as a pretender?
Nicer. I have the Archers as the pretender. And they had those two great games where they scored 20 goals against Cannons, 17 against Chaos. Other than that, though, when they've played the good teams in the league, and now as we've gone through half the season, we know who the good teams are, we know who the bad teams are, and the Archers have struggled with that. Yes, they beat Redwoods by 10-9, but it just goes back to the point where they can't be scoring 10 goals and expect to be a contender at the end of the season. That's just how I feel.
Fair.
Against, Redwoods have their good defense.
Yeah.
Their offense isn't very good, but they have a good defense. But at the end of the day, you can't score 10 goals, and there's just something funny about the offense, and I don't think, and of course we're looking ahead here, and I thought about what's the Grant Ament impact. It doesn't seem like we really know when Grant Ament's going to be back, and even when he does come back, it's a very short amount of time for him just to acclimate in a place with a bunch of guys that now maybe are getting to more of a rhythm. I don't know if they are or not, but at the end of the day, they already have something established as Connor Fields just tried to get back into things. So they're already, and they're trying to implement these people in the middle of the season. It just feels like a mess to me. You know, they're not getting much production out of their midfield. Manning and Holman, top 5 goal scorers in the league. They've been great feeding back and forth to one another.
Yeah.
But then that's like one part. And then they have like the Connor Fields and DeSimone part. And then Matt Moore gets in. It seems like it's all very separated. And you have Tom Schreiber, who probably should touch the ball in every single possession and work the ball through him to get some consistency with your offense. Because or else I feel like it's very disjointed. That's just how I feel. I don't think they have enough continuity on offense, enough consistency. We've talked about it all year long, that it's like, oh, where was this all along? And that's how I felt about them all year. And I think they could use more production from their midfield as well.
Okay. I'm going to pull an audible here on the folks in the back here, because my contender is the Archers.
Whoa!
They're not a pretender. They're a contender, Tom.
Why?
Their only losses are by 1 goal. Yes, they're 2 good teams, but I mean, that's a slim difference. And so they're beating everybody else they're supposed to beat. They're 3-2, so they're well positioned here in the standings. Only a game back of the 3 teams that are 4-1 so far through the first half of the season. They've got the best goal differential in the league, which matters when it comes down to tiebreakers. That's a plus in terms of figuring out where you're going to be in the standings. And
the standings don't matter. But,
okay.
I mean, the Chaos were when they were under 500 last year and made the playoffs. They weren't a 1 seed.
Anyway,
they didn't get
you
a
want
bye.
to figure out. You want to be up in the standings a little bit, all right?
Didn't matter last year.
And Marcus Holman scored 4 of his 11 goals here in the year in this game, and I think that's a big bright spot, because he's a guy that on this offense is, I think sometimes like gets forgotten about. I think Holman adding the ability, and he scored a 2-ball in this game this weekend as well. I think him having the ability to catch and shoot with the right hand, like Manny can catch and shoot with the left, I think is an important thing for the balance of this offense. Because I think if you continue to surround some of the playmakers, and hopefully Grant Ament comes back, because if you surround guys like Ament and Schreiber with guys who can stretch the field and shoot and score efficiently, I think you're in a good spot. I think Matt Moore fits into that well, too, in terms of coming out of the midfield. So I really do think they are on the cusp of figuring it out here down the stretch. They don't have to figure it out yet. Just be there in the mix and figure it out down the stretch of the season.
You know, Travis, you're not wrong. But I think if we had the tape and we went back to the year 2019, you probably said the same exact thing.
Probably,
we probably could just have used that instead of what you just said.
But you know what?
What's the difference between then and now?
Tom Schreiber got hurt in 2019.
Okay, what about the year after that?
Well, then you had the bubble year, and then they were learning.
They're learning, yeah.
I'm in. I'm still in. Yeah. This is like, every team that I like it's like the Eagles last year. Every time I wanted to be completely out, I'm like, Jalen Hurts keeps bringing me back in.
It's like when James Harden went to the 76ers and they beat those 3 bad teams. Everyone's like, James Harden, Joel Embiid, this is the answer, everybody.
They bring me back in just in time to ruin my hopes. So for the Archers, they still have me in. I'm still in on the Archers. Because I'm not.
But the problem is also.
You got a lot of youth ahead of them, too. So at some point, I feel like the experience of this Archers offense is going to matter. Because you look at the teams ahead of them. It's a bunch of teams that have got a bunch of youth on it. Haven't learned it. Because you're right. Every professional lacrosse season has involved how do you incorporate new guys on the fly. That's the reality of professional lacrosse, especially in the outdoor game in the summer. So these Archers guys have done this over and over and over again. So if there's any team that can reincorporate Fields and Ament and whoever else comes in, it's them. My one concern with the Archers is the face-off X. Whether it's Anasi or Labetti, they got to figure out.
They've been poor. Yes.
This has been one of their major issues from the beginning of this league when they first were formed. They've got to figure out the face-off X.
Yeah, I think you're right. And
make a move. Is there a trade deadline? Is it available?
Sometimes
I don't know.
the trade deadline's announced and it's like the next day.
Well, if there's an ability to make a trade for a face-off guy, I would advise the Archers to do that.
Sometimes the trade deadline's kind of a surprise, but
I'm not sure what the deal is there, but
it's fluid. It's very fluid.
There's the player pool. Find somebody who can take some face-off.
Okay. Let's move to your pretender since I already did mine.
Okay, all right. My pretender, I'm going Chaos. I know they're 1-4.
Pretender?
No, Pretender.
Pretender, okay.
Yeah, my Pretender, I'm going Chaos. Everybody has high expectations, like this team is going to just come out of the woodwork again. I think that the wear and tear on these guys that just played an entire NLL season, including a 3-game finals, is really hard. And they've really found themselves behind the 8 ball. They're 0-4. They had a nice win against the Cannons this past week, but the Cannons have not done anything to impress me. And here's the thing. 2 of their next 3 games are against the Whipsnakes and the Chrome, and I don't like them in either one of those matchups. So I think they win 1 of their next 3, and they find themselves at 2-6. I just don't see it.
I mean, I don't know how, and I agree with you here. I don't know how people think that this year would it be anywhere close to the way it was last year with the Chaos. There wasn't an NLL season last year. Right. They just started off slowly. There was no guys coming at, like we talked about the guys getting acclimated back in. There was no layover, overlap.
Yeah.
There was none of that. They just had the guys. They weren't playing well, and things clicked, and they played better.
I mean, you think about
this is completely different than that.
These guys just played how many? They've been playing since December.
Yeah.
And I know, like, this is what they've done throughout their lives.
I know it's still, every once a week and all of that.
But still, grind.
It's not, those are tough physical games where you're running on AstroTurf, and it's not an easy, mentally either. And you're right. I think that this is completely different, and just to expect them to be right all of a sudden, even people thought, oh, they're weak, they're back, they're good. No. It's going to, if maybe after the All-Star break, if we see a spark, great. But to be able to even sustain that up until the fall, we haven't really experienced that, have we?
Yeah.
When?
No, we haven't. And you look at
and past like MLL iterations. I mean, those are some. The overlap was a little bit different. But.
Yeah, there was a little bit more. And now you're looking at it like these guys are going to play if the Chaos do go on a run like they did last year. You're going to play all the way through almost to the very end of September. It's the 3rd week of September. You're looking at the championship game.
Yeah.
What, you got a month and a half off before NLL training camp?
Well, I don't even look at it that way. I look at when they started.
But that's what I mean. You're going December through September.
I think a lot of the training camps.
November.
There were some at the end of October, I think.
Yeah,
where teams
October,
got together,
at least November.
and then you had November, and then so you're playing 12 months out of the year without really a break.
Yeah.
And
it's a grind.
It does make a difference. So I don't know where anybody would think the Chaos. It's different. It's a completely different thing compared to last year. Yeah. There was no NLL. There hasn't been NLL.
Well, and the schedule doesn't do them any favors. Like the week after the All-Star break, they're playing the Whipsnakes, who just lost this past week. So they're going to be hungry to get back going in the right direction. So I don't see them winning that game. They then have a winnable game before they then play the Chrome. And the Chrome have been really good.
Yeah.
And they're a team that
I like Chrome.
Yeah, and if you look back to even the Rattlers days with Tim Sudan, like that's a team that you know what you're going to get. Like they don't have off weeks. If you get them, you're beating them at their best. Like they're not beating themselves.
Yeah.
And so I that's going to be tough to come back from being 2-6.
All right. I'm going to go contender Water Dogs. They're 2-3 right now, coming off big win over the Whipsnakes, 11-10 over the weekend.
Yeah, it's a big win.
They lost their first 3. Now they've won their last 2. And I go back to the paper here, kind of like you do with the Archers, but you go back to the paper and you go to this midfield, and you keep on looking at the midfield. You're like, Connor Kelly's got 12 points this year. Zach Currier, 9 points, 23 ground balls. He's
so good.
Yeah, it's amazing because I don't think enough people talk about Zach Currier and the amount of ground balls he picks up. It is almost unheard of. I mean, Brody Merrill, I think, and paved the way but it's not in the same way Currier does it, right? It's a kind of a different iteration where Currier also mixes in scoring at that with the short stick. So to see Currier still doing his thing, then you've got Jack Hanna, Ethan Walker, who also provide a lift there. They've got 5 goals apiece. So I love their midfield. And then you have Michael Sowers, who didn't really have a rookie year at all. He played, 1 game, and he got hurt, and he was done the rest of the season. So
debut
he can only get better as a professional lacrosse player. And if he's anything like he was in college, he will be one of the best in the world at what he does. So for me, Sowers has scored 3 goals in the win over Whipsnakes. That shows you everything you need to know. Dylan Ward, I know we just talked about all the stuff with the NLL. He did play deep into the season, but I think that he is an upgrade over what they had there. And DeLuca, I believe, was in goal beforehand. I think that Dylan Ward is an experienced goalie, can get the job done, knows what it takes as well. So to me, the sky's the limit for this Water Dogs team. They've got a lot of talent, and their defense is really good. They've got Burns, Goldbrick, Sabia, Randall back there. So I think they have everything it takes. They just have to put it together and win, which they have the last 2 weeks. They beat a bad Chaos team, and then they beat a good Whip Snakes team.
Yeah, the win over the Whip Snakes is legit, and I think you hit the nail on the head with Sowers. Like, if he is 3/4 the player that he was during his final year at Princeton, like, it's game-changing.
I mean, his rookie year is very different than a lot of. I mean, this is his rookie year.
Yeah, this is essentially his rookie year.
This is it.
Yeah, he took the shot to the head in his first game as a PLL player, and I think he's realizing he's got to realize in the same way that Greg Ament has to realize, like, he's not a giant player. You're playing against the trees of defenses. Like, every defense is that has the size of Yale in this league. So you've got to adapt, like, how are you going to play so that not only are you going to score and be efficient, but also find a way to make sure you stay on the field.
Yeah.
You got to be available, and I think he's learning that.
Yeah, I do too, and I think they're going to get better as the season goes on. So I do like the Water Dogs as my contender as the season goes on. Right
I like
now,
that pick.
Under 500, but I think we'll get over that hump as the season goes on. Maybe even get to that Super Cup, in the top 4 teams. That's what we're calling it. We do a lot of international sports
the
here.
PLL Championship Series in 2023.
So
top 4
we're
teams.
very aware with the European model of having these so-called Super Cups, which is exactly probably where the PLL took it, or inspired from, if you will, in which the top 4 teams will all go and play like a little tournament in the middle of the season. So this is what that is, the Super Cup at some point in January, February?
Yeah.
Early next 2023.
Early 2023, the PLL Championship Series.
Yeah, so that's just some European and international knowledge for you. That's different than just the cups they have.
That's where everybody plays.
Where everybody can play, for the most part. Everybody pretty much in the league is in. And you see that, in international soccer and things like that. So you probably know about that.
You come here for the lacrosse talk and you get some international sports.
The question is, when will the PLL get themselves just the cup? Because right now, technically, it's a Super Cup. And they probably should have called it that, because now how do you differentiate if you just do a cup?
I don't know.
Like, you just have a single elimination tournament over the course of the season with the 8 teams.
I don't know, man.
So I hope Paul and company are watching. So, these are all things that, and then after that, you have relegation that you can also put in there. I don't know how that
Where
would
are they
work.
getting relegated?
I don't know. But if you want to steal the model, I'm a big relegation guy. So I think that would be a fascinating, I don't know who you're relegating where, but maybe down the road, you can figure that out and get it all to work. So we're talking we're solving everything 20 years into the future.
Tom's thinking relegation. We're going to just try to get to the All-Star game at Gillette Stadium. That's coming up in a couple weeks for the PLL. We'll talk to you next week, where we'll know who has won the 2022 Women's World Championship. But for now, he's Tom. I'm Travis. We'll see you.